listening to Living with ADHD and CPTSD, available on Apple and wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Living with ADHD and CPTSD. Well, today's episode is a CPTSD episode, and I want to do something rather than talking to other people and getting their opinion. I want to strictly talk about my own update when it comes to my CPTSD and the struggles that I've been dealing with lately. As you're aware, I have been having some issues when it comes to understanding and being aware of getting triggered and having flashbacks and having a great deal of difficulty stopping myself or stopping my parts from getting online and becoming blended with them and then interacting and behaving in a negative way towards people, especially my girlfriend. So... Oh yeah, and also, of course, knowing that my ADHD is more likely due to my complex trauma from my childhood, and understanding and getting a bit better grasp of that as well than what I have had in the past, and my misunderstanding of everything that's been going on with myself. So, it's been a great deal of, disappointments and not being able to, follow through with what is required and what I need to do in order to make progress and continue the healing, the progress of healing from my flashbacks and being in better control when I do get triggered. It's been difficult because I'm struggling to truly have a decent level of self-awareness in times that are potentially frustrating or potentially stressful or cause high levels of anxiety and be overwhelming to me and to my parts. It's almost like I'm becoming incapable of being aware of really anything rather than just an obsessive pattern of thinking and wondering and, just not knowing what to expect, being very getting into this situation where you're freezing and I'm in a frozen state and my mind shuts down. And when I mean my mind, more specifically, I mean the verbal aspect of my brain. It was brought up to my attention not long ago that when I am overwhelmed and I'm in a highly anxious state of mind and I'm getting close to or already have become triggered and blended with my system, that my ability to respond verbally and communicate clearly and effectively becomes minimal to non-effective, no ability whatsoever. And it's more and more clear, and the evidence is there because of the fact that when it happens, I have thoughts in my head that are, to me, they're important, they're necessary to speak about, and they also are they're the things that my partner wants to hear. it's agreements, it's acknowledging her point of view, her statements, her emotions. It's not being dismissive or argumentative, or in another way of putting it, not being like disagreeing and being defensive. Because one of the things that I do have that I've developed, and I'm sure if you have listened to my other podcasts in previous episodes, I do have a case of ODD, which is an offensive defiance disorder, where you become defiant and you become disagreeable and you get defensive whenever somebody is challenging you or presenting to you a situation or thinks that you've done something that isn't appropriate. And instead of understanding and going, oh, I see, like, you think about it and you go, oh, I see what you're saying. Oh, I am so sorry. I apologize for what I did. I was not aware, or I didn't realize that I had done something wrong. Instead of being apologetic and open-minded and giving the appropriate adult-like response to the person who's challenging you, I automatically get into a state of defensiveness or argumentative and challenge that person as if they're wrong, right? Like I'm thinking that, or my parts are thinking they're the ones that are wrong, that I didn't do anything was inappropriate. And so I get defensive and I challenge them, and my voice rises and the tone changes. And it's almost like I never accept responsibility for the actions that I've taken or that my parts have taken, and don't own up to it. Instead, I disagree and think that I'm not the one that's wrong, that they're the ones that are wrong. So that's not a good thing. That is not something that you want to be doing. And when you've got ODD and your parts are getting triggered and you're blended, that is something that is a lot more likely to occur than realizing that you have made a mistake or that you hurt somebody and apologizing profusely and owning up to it and trying to make better or make up for the mistake or for the pain that you've caused. So it's a very complicated, very difficult thing to overcome. And that's just one of the number of things that I'm dealing with. And if you were able to look back at my history and see the patterns and the reasons as to why this occurred and why I continued to do it as I was growing up and my mind developed, and all I really ever knew was to defend myself, to seek justice, and to argue, because you feel like it's the only way to be able to make things right or to protect yourself. Because if otherwise you're completely open to any sort of assault or judgment or attack or bullying, and if you're not protecting yourself or defending yourself, then you're never going to be able to determine if the actions that are being taken are correct or you are indeed being in the wrong. And a lot of times we do face people who are being inconsiderate, unreasonable, irresponsible, or just being a bully, or are just mean in general. And if you don't stand up to that kind of behavior, then you're just going to get walked over and pushed around for your entire life. And we obviously don't want that. But when we're being walked all over and pushed around and forced to do things or controlled because we're basically defensiveless and we have no ability to protect ourselves or to fight back because of, we're a 5-year-old child, and you can't exactly just fight back against a grown man who has control over you and feeds you and makes sure you have a house over your head and gives you the things that you need in order to survive, if they're constantly, abusing you and attacking you and making you feel crappy because every little thing that you do isn't good enough, or even the things that you do that in a normal life would be fine, they're attacking you and insulting you or accusing you falsely, or they're mistreating you, whether it's through inappropriate discipline or they're just bad parents, then you learn, like, that's the problem, is that that part that is being defensive and trying to defend your life and make sure that you aren't just being walked on, it's the only thing it knows is what it learned through its existence when it came alive, or when it was born to protect you back when you were a small child. So now, as an adult, I face a challenge where that same part gets triggered because of a flashback to my childhood years, and thinks that I'm in danger, but its only way of responding to anything, of any kind of like response, whether it's constructive criticism, it's inappropriate criticism, it's suggestions, it's advice, somebody notices that you're doing something incorrectly, or you're making a mess, or you're causing issues, your response to it, no matter what the situation that is happening, is going to be the same. You're going to be defensive, you're going to be rude, you're going to be loud, you're going to be inappropriate, you're going to get extremely upset, and you're not going to be able to listen to reason. And like I've already stated, this is strictly because of the fact that your child part has become triggered, and now they've taken over and they're acting in a way that they think is appropriate, because as far as they're concerned, they think you are 5 years old. So they don't realize that, well, my part doesn't realize that I'm not 5. It doesn't know that I'm 44, and doesn't know that I'm an adult who can take care of myself and knows right from wrong, and should be capable of realizing that there's a correct response for every different situation that arises. If I don't update this part correctly and give them, an understanding that it's a different time, they don't need to be that way. I'm no longer in immediate danger, and I'm able to make my own decisions and walk away if I'm able to, because I can, because I have the freedom and I have the ability to step away and not take any of the abuse or the inappropriate attacks that I experienced when I was a child. And that's the interesting thing, is that the reality of the situation is that what's happening today is none of that. There is none, or there is no abuse or unnecessary attacks or inappropriate behavior being fed my way. It is reasonable, and because my parts are having these flashbacks, and at the same time, I, as the adult, I'm having a great deal of difficulty getting through and being able to get this part to trust me so that I can update it correctly. It's not helping in any situation, because this part needs to be updated, and it needs to be updated on a regular basis, so that eventually it learns from the adult and trusts the adult that I'm okay, and that it doesn't need to respond in that way, which is in a child's behavior is correct, but as an adult is completely inappropriate and not fair, and can be over the line in so many different ways. Now, this thing is, one thing you do have to realize is that I'm not being mean, and I'm not dismissing the child part's reasonings for why it's doing this. That's not what I'm doing. To some of you, it might appear as though I'm telling the part that it's wrong, that they have no business being that way or acting in such a manner. But the reality is I'm appreciating the part's reasoning and the desire to protect me, and I understand why it's coming online and why it is doing the behavior. I appreciate that and I understand it. I just want it to. I'm trying to show the part that today, in today's time, as me as a 44-year-old, that it doesn't need to have that kind of reaction, because unknowingly to its memories and to the reality of the child part, I'm not a 5-year-old child anymore. I'm not defenseless. I'm not in a situation where I can't leave if I have to in order to be safe and to have protection. I'm not in that situation anymore in my life. I have the ability to walk away. So it needs to be aware of that, and it needs to understand not only understand that this is reality, that I am a 44-year-old adult. It needs to trust the situation and believe the adult that this is the truth. Because if this part doesn't have the trust, if it doesn't trust this adult and doesn't necessarily believe that the reality is that I'm safe and that I can make my own choices and I don't need to stick around for this abuse and this completely inappropriate and unfair judgment, if it doesn't believe it, then it's going to continue to come online and continue to get triggered every time this occurs. And that's the reality that I, as the adult, have to face. Is I need to update and I need to gain this part's trust so that it down the road, the next time something does occur and I'm being criticized for something, even if it's constructive and it's warranted, I need to be able to go, oh, okay, I did something wrong. Crap, that was not right. That was not right of me to do that. Or shit, that was a complete accident. I'm so sorry. I realized what I did was incorrect, or I am so sorry that I hurt you. It's not right, and I realized that was not the correct behavior. That's not being defensive. That's not being argumentative, and the child part is definitely not online in that time. So that is what needs to be done. So, as I was getting back to the beginning, then the struggles that have been occurring for the last little while is getting to the situation where the parts that are coming online when I'm feeling anxious and when I'm getting overwhelmed, they need to be updated on a regular basis. The problems that are occurring in my life, it's extremely frustrating and it's extremely hard on me, and I'm really hard on myself. And as I was discussing with my girlfriend yesterday, as a matter of fact, we were in agreement that I am very hard on myself. The moment something goes wrong or I do something bad, and it is, even if it's completely by accident and it's due to misunderstanding or lack of communication, or it's a total mistake and I'm just feeling extremely embarrassed and ashamed, and I'm starting to feel anxious because I realize that there's a possibility that, again, I'm going to, as my parts put it, I'm going to feel the wrath of my girlfriend because repeatedly I'm doing the same things over and over and over, and my parts, they're not getting the care and the attention that they're requiring in order to be updated, on a regular basis, so that the next time this kind of situation occurs, that I'm in a much better situation in the moment, in real time, to make sure that the adult stays in control. Because then when something does occur, whether or not I'm aware that I've done it, I am going to be in a much better shape and I'm going to have a much better chance of not getting triggered and not having a flashback to my child part and not becoming completely overwhelmed and blended with my system, so that I'm done before the conversation's barely started. There are definite signs that occur with me when I am getting blended and when I'm feeling overwhelmed. My communication becomes minimal, and my tone and the inflection of my voice is more or less zero. I really don't have much of a tone when I'm blended. It's a lot of 1-word, 2-word kind of answers, and I easily get frustrated and I get annoyed easily because, the parts are wanting to get past this. They want to avoid conflict, and they want to avoid, potentially making that person even more upset, because my child parts fight back. They get defensive, like I've said before earlier here. And as you're all aware, being defensive when someone is bringing up a point, especially if it's something that you are responsible for, and as an adult you need to take responsibility for your actions and your behaviors. The exact opposite thing that you need to do is become defensive and defy the logic and defy your partner's information that they're presenting to you. Like if you want to have a relationship that ends quickly and has no chance in hell of surviving and making any kind of progress, being defiant and arguing and not accepting responsibility for the actions that are happening, then by all means, in reality, just continue to do what you're doing, because that's a surefire way of having this relationship that you're in ending awful fast. When your girlfriend or when your wife or your friends notice that something has happened, whether maybe you've done something by accident, maybe you've hurt their feelings, maybe you said something that you thought was funny that wasn't funny and now they find it to be inappropriate, or maybe you broke something or you made a mistake and that person brings it up, and the thing is they're going to gently confront you. They're not going to come into your face and start pushing you and yelling at you saying, "What did you do that for? Are you an idiot? Why did you make such a mess? Like, what the hell is wrong with you? You're such an idiot. You're so stupid." They're not going to do that. That's the kind of thing that more often than not does warrant a defensive response. That's an inappropriate way of handling something that you've done, and I won't stand up for that. But if your partner or friend or your wife comes to you and in a gentle way, or in a, you can tell that they're upset, but they're also reasonable and understanding, and asks you what happened and says, do you realize that was not fair and that was hurtful to me, and I think you owe me an apology and an explanation. If it's done like that, being defiant is definitely the wrong way to go about this. Being disagreeable and being defensive is completely wrong. And I wouldn't blame that person if they were wanting to get out of this after that kind of response. The correct thing to do, and this is where you need to have, like for myself, this is where I need to have my parts under control and have a better trusting of me, knowing that I can do this right. You need to be acknowledging. You need to have a very humble attitude and a very humble tone. You got to acknowledge them. You've got to say, "Oh, damn, I realize, yes, you're right. I see how this hurt you. I can see now that what I said was wrong and was inappropriate and was not funny. And I am really sorry. I am so sorry that what I said hurt you. I did not mean to do that. And I deeply apologize. I'm so sorry about it. And assuming that everybody in this partnership has a good understanding and, understands each other well, it's going to end, like the conflict is going to end really fast, and you're both going to get past this and move on. That's something that I need to teach and show my parts that this is what will happen if the adult is in control and gives the kind of response that is required. Like owning up to what you've done, owning and taking, responsibility for what happened, and being humble and being honest and apologizing is the steps that are required to get past it. And my parts need to be able to trust me enough. They need to be updated enough so that the next time it occurs, which hopefully is a long time from now, that they will not come online and not get overwhelmed and triggered, and will let the adult do what is necessary or do what is correct in this stage to make sure that nobody gets hurt more, nobody is angry at each other, and that we are able to move on as efficiently and as quickly as possible, assuming that both parties are satisfied with what has occurred. That's very important, and that is extremely necessary in order for a part to see, hey, you know what? This is what happens when the adult does his thing. That person, their partner, didn't be unreasonable. They weren't violent. They weren't abusive. They didn't say mean and unfair things to us. They saw that we apologized. They saw that we did the right thing. We took ownership. We took responsibility for what happened. And they appreciated that we were being honest and being upfront about it. And then everything was fine. That part sees this and they go, okay, great, I understand now. And so now you've updated them and now they trust you more. And every time, and hopefully, obviously, you don't want this to be occurring a lot, but every time that something like this similar happens in the future, more and more likely your part or parts are going to step back and let the adult be in control and take care of this properly. And that you won't, there won't be a scene, or there won't be a defensive or, defiant response when it's not needed. Parts think, see, that's the thing, is that parts, they're not real time. They're not in time and in place. They're not the same age as the adult. Those parts are the ages that they are when they were born. So 5, 10, 8, whatever, right? Those identified parts stay as that age. They're in that time frame. They don't get updated. They don't have new memories of life beyond that time frame. They only have memories and knowledge and understanding of when you were that age and when you were facing and experiencing that trauma and that abuse back then. So it's up to the adult to, over time, update that part and gain their trust so that they'll be able to be integrated with us and be able to see that here is today's date. Here is the updated version of your life. Here's reality. This is what actually now happens. And the more that this occurs, the better that this is life, then you're going to heal and you're going to start to be better. And you'll move forward in your process, and you're not likely going to get triggered again. And this is healthier for us. It's healthier for your relationship as well. I'm in that process. I know that I'm slowly getting better. I'm not always perfect. There are times where I do need to improve in my process, but I am getting there. And it won't be long. I'm sure really soon it will be that every time something like this occurs, hopefully far and few in between, that I will do the right thing and that the adult will stay on as in control, and the parts will be able to see from the back that I did the right thing and that nothing really, really bad ever came out of it. She got upset. I acknowledged her, and with a proper apology, I was able to make everything get resolved and move forward. That's what we're looking for, and that's what I'm hoping to achieve in the near future. If you're in the same situation, you just need to realize that your parts are not in time and in place, and their memories aren't of the present day, and they don't realize that you're not in danger anymore. If they can get updated and they can trust you, you are that much closer to not having a flashback and having anxiety and CPTSD come up the next time something like this occurs. All right, everybody. That's today's episode. I hope that you enjoyed this one. I hope that the information that I gave you was beneficial to you. If so, and you really like this, and you find that this is something that has really helped you and has given you some inspiration to move forward and to be better, then please help me out. Give me, you can subscribe to the podcast. It's on Apple Podcasts. It's a monthly amount that is really low in price, or you can do the yearly, which is a bit of a discount. And then you get early access to all the new episodes like this one and bonus podcasts that are only available to subscribers. You can donate. You can go to ko-fi.com, ko-fi.com/livingwithadhd and CPTSD, and you can donate there. Whatever is appropriate or able for you to do would be much appreciated. It helps me continue to pay for the software that I use to make these podcasts and provide more material for my listeners. If you want to contact me, if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, if you want to be a guest on my show, there are a number of ways to contact me. You can get to me through Twitter. The handle is at ADHD and CPTSD. My email address is livingwithadhdandcptsd@gmail.com. And of course, there is my website, which is livingwithadhdandcptsd.ca. I would love to hear from you guys. Okay, that's it for today. All right, everybody. Thanks for listening. Tune in next week for some more episodes. All right, bye for now.